Okay, so today's session is all about food business. We're going to be touching upon a few key agendas. First and foremost, I would like to introduce the panel members for today's discussion. Mr. Venkateshwar Reddy, who's the Managing Director of Venus Consultants. Uh, Chef Balamurgan, he is a food business consultant. Mrs. Geeta Venkat, who's the Director of Food Safety for First Trainers, Mr. Muhammad Ali, he's the Director of Convenio Foods International Private Limited, and myself, Rahul Talwar, I'm a Director with Rethink Hospitality Private Limited. So I would request all the participants to introduce themselves. Rajesh, can you unmute? So,
Yes, Rahul. Yes.
can you unmute Venkatesh Reddy, sir?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
so
We
we are
can
able
hear
to
you.
hear you.
Yeah. So I'm a product of the IHM Chennai 83 batch, and then I've started this consultancy business way back in '89. So probably we are in this business for the longest period of time in South India, and we have helped a lot of small companies becoming to very huge chains right now. More than this, I think I helped a lot of local staff and local small businesses to come up. So we are here today to talk about how your business could do well and what are the absolute requirements. We are not here to discuss about COVID, so let's not talk about COVID at all. We are going to talk about our total businesses. And the next thing, what I would say is the panel has a lot of expertise here. We may not have enough time, so we may be rushing, but if any questions are there, please do ask. Probably will come to you on a one-on-one later on, and we could discuss it at length. Uh, Having said this, I now request Bala, Chef Bala, to take over and introduce himself. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Brijesh. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Venki sir, and welcome all panelists, Geeta ma'am, Mohammad Ali sir. Thanks to all participants. Thanks to all the sponsors for giving this platform an opportunity. It's a great time to meet you all online and to discuss about the scenario and food business situations. This profitable food business meet is a great way to go about at this moment. My name is Bala. I'm a food business consultant. I own a firm called Kalinax, and I'm in the industry for the past 25 years. And I'd like to be a chef and a consultant as well. So I'm just having that pride of being just a chef all the time. Thanks, and let me pass it to Geeta ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So, very good morning. I am Geeta Venkat. To introduce myself, I am handling the food safety training and consultancy at First Trainers. So here we're going to focus on the importance of cleaning and disinfection, trying to focus on preparing safe food, both at the catering level as well as in the food manufacturing level. And we are trying to understand, we need to understand, leaving apart COVID, though now more of cleaning and sanitization emphasis is given. Leaving apart that, it is otherwise even mandatory that we focus in the food industry we need to give more emphasis on cleaning and disinfection and sanitization. Probably we need to understand the terminologies better to ensure that we have proper cleaning practices in place, and then try to prepare as much as safe food as possible. Now we have a tougher situation where we need to ensure that we deliver safe food to the consumers. It becomes our responsibility from the food industry as well. So this is going to be our prime focus. How do we ensure that we prepare safe food and hand over to the customers? So this is what it is, and with around 20 years of experience in the industry, as well as a part of training, and having been a lead auditor for food safety, I would be pleased to share my experience in these areas.
May I
Hello.
request Mr. Muhammad Ali to introduce himself?
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mohammad Ali. Um, Started a business for frozen food manufacturing sometime in '99, and in 2005 we what do you call completely remodeled the entire program, and we had launched Convenient Foods. So we are one of the oldest and largest integrated food manufacturing, frozen food manufacturing facility in the subcontinent, and that is pretty much about us. And we've just started a training academy. We specialize in training for bakery and pastry, and we are starting again for culinary training also. So part of it, we also have been focusing a lot in terms of food safety and the knowledge, and much more that is actually required, and the order of the day as we speak right now. Besides this, we have a little bit of experience in terms of consumer engagement and consumer behavior, specifically in the online segment towards food and food ordering and delivering and such as that. That is pretty much my background. A little bit in retail, thanks to experts like Reddy sir, and of course we had some little bit interaction with Mr. Rahul and co-chef Bala also. So that is pretty much about us, and I look forward in having a very good and productive session with one and all. Thank you.
Thank you. Something that you've not told about yourself is you're an avid foodie, and you're known in the city of Chennai for, your blogs about food.
Yes, yes. So we have run a small group called Chennai Food Guide. We have close to 1.5 lakh members in our group, and close to 60-70,000 assorted formats of followers in Instagram and other things. We basically use it as a measuring tool to understand people's buying behavior and understanding and preference and such. That is, we're using it as an academic tool. And we try to help some businesses where and where possible, and also try to help ourselves to understand what is the need of the market and try to deliver accordingly. Thanks for that, Rahul.
Thank you. I'll keep my introduction really small and quick. I'm again a pass out of IHM Chennai, and I have been in the industry for almost about 15 years. I'm a part of 3 consulting firms, and that's a quick introduction about me. So we'll move to the agenda for today, keeping it very crisp. We're going to be focusing on what does it take to build a good business model, what are the compliances to be met, menu engineering, something that we all have heard about, but we have not spoken much about, or it's not much into practice when it comes to standalone restaurants. Shift from cheap food to safe food with an emphasis on food safety. That's something which is a need of the hour. And we'll talk about operator concerns and newer business avenues. So quickly moving to how about the first agenda for the day, which is how do you build a good business model? Now, there are a few key fundamentals. First and foremost, you need to do a good market research. When I say good market research, you don't need to hire an agency. You can do it yourself. It's no rocket science, but you need to understand the metrics of what people exactly are looking for in your particular market. And then you need to identify your target customer so that you reach your target customer. Now, something over and above your target customer is also about your target customer is none other than the guest who's going to be coming into your facility to dine or to buy a bakery product or anything. Now, keeping that target customer, something that will help you get your average per bill or average per cover is the available disposable income with that target customer. So, and basis all these, you need to build a business plan. These are the key fundamentals. Now, when you build a business plan, it is imperative that you have 5-year growth projections, and you also have your return on investment calculations. And what are the other codes and compliances that are to be met, and the cost factors associated to this have to be factored in your business model. Uh, Anybody would like to add, any of the panelists would like to add anything at this juncture? Yes, sir, please go ahead.
When we talk about business plans, from my experience, what I've understood, a lot of people who are not from the industry want to come into the industry. That is the best thing that can happen to any industry. Having said this, a lot of people also assume things without any bias. They assume that food business is the most profitable business. It is profitable, but how profitable depends on various factors. A lot of people have come to me to start restaurants where I have told them not to, because they really do not understand. They think it's 100% profit in this business. No, it is not. The profit margins here are in the range of between 20 to 0%. So understanding this before you start a business is more important. So when Rahul says do a market research, it is very important. When you say do a target of your customers, you should understand in the locality where you're going to open your business. You're going to understand where you're going to feed that business to. If it is a big industry, you need to understand how far your penetration is going to be and how your penetration is going to be. So what are the kind of advertising targets that you need to meet, and what are the strategies of transport and other logistics that need to be taken care of. And when we're talking about disposable incomes, he is basically trying to say how much a person is willing to spend at your premises or on your product. Understanding this is the most important factor in this food business. A lot of businesses have failed because they have assumed that their product will do well. Assumption is something else, and actual ground reality is something else. And when we build a business plan, all the factors which I spoke about till now are very important. And when we talk about a projection, normally projections will never be the same as the reality. There is always going to be a fluctuation. There is always going to be a speed bump, and there is always going to be a lot of issues coming in at that point of time. A lot of people are very optimistic when they want to start a business. My first word of advice to them: be as pessimistic as you can before you start your business. But once you start your business, no little bit of negativity also is not required. You need to go full steam ahead. Be as optimistic as possible. Work as hard as possible so that we can make the project a success. Being pessimistic is not wrong, because that is the way that you are cautious, and that is the way that you are going to really take care of how your monies are going to be spent. Once spent, you will not get it back if you're not careful. Carry on, Tom.
A couple of other things that a good business model also entails is, first, location, location, and location. We always talk about this when it comes to standalone restaurants or when it comes to 5-star hotels. Any segment in that matter where you're catering to a customer dining into your or creating a dine-in facility, you have to have your location intact. Something else that you need to keep in mind is also your competitors in the area. I wouldn't want, typically what we see in a city is that one person opens up a kulfi outlet and you've got 10 others following the same. No, you're basically killing his business as well as going to be not having a market for yourself. So I'll move on to a good business model. There are key fundamentals when you build in your business model, and I'm here to talk about that. Now, how do you build your business model? And it's very important that you compute this, and that's what I'm trying to bring about here on the screen. Now, this is, again, whatever is coming on your screen are hypothetical projections, and these are not numbers to be worked upon. I mean, I've just worked this as an example, and you cannot relate it to any particular business in particular. Here we have taken an example of a 100-cover restaurant, And when we do our computation for the first year, we only take 50% occupancy. So I've taken an average of 50 covers per day. And your number of covers per year would be 50 into 365, that is 365 days in a year. And then your average per customer, that is what you look at, your APC, average per customer, that is the bill amount that you would expect out of an individual dining in at your facility. Mind you, this is an individual, this is not a collective bill. A collective bill is called an average per ticket. So that is 4 people dining in and one person pays the bill. The ticket is average per ticket. Now here we're talking only about average cover because we're taking it as per seat count. So this that you get. Now the second, we've given a 5% increase in terms of the number of covers per day. Third year, again, another 5. And that's how we increase the number of covers to basically talk about. This is the basic step. This is step number 1. Step number 2 would be, how do you calculate your manpower cost? Again, these are very hypothetical figures in terms of salaries and the number of manpower required. Here we've shown in 32 in total for this calculation. Now, you break your salaries also into your kitchen staff, your service staff, and your administrative staff. And if you have a company, you also build in your cost of your directorship and other management, key management staff. Now, again, here we've given a 10% increase in terms of salaries for the next 5 years, which is computed in the last line that you actually see. Now, this is the total working for a month. That's coming about to 4,98,000 as per this calculation. Now, I will be computing this into the next slide. I'll just show you that. Other than this, there are a few important costs which are hidden by nature. Most of the times you don't actually see these costs, but these costs actually add up to a considerable value when it comes to the end of the year. So for example, your license for your establishment and your other licenses, your cost of operating your telephones, your music and entertainment expenses, which is your licenses, the travel expenses that are required by your staff to do marketing XYZ, your sales and marketing expenses, repairs and preventive maintenance, insurance, maintenance charges, and miscellaneous expenses. Now, these are hypothetical figures. We've just used it for computation. Again, I would like to highlight that point. Now, supplies is something that we usually break it down to cleaning supplies, guest supplies, your stationery, your laundry charges, and your breakages, and the cost of your menu card itself. And we break it down to cost per cover, which works out in this case to be 50 rupees. Venki sir, would you want to add something to this?
When Rahul was doing this, I want all of you all to understand these are only for an example. We have just put up a few facts there which are probably definitely needed. Each business will have something unique. You might need to add a lot more to this list of expenses. He has spoken about miscellaneous expenses, and he's spoken about how we break up the supply chain. Now, the supply chain for a different industry would be different. So when you are creating a sheet like this for yourself, please ensure the number of headings are much more. Every line that you create is going to give you a data which can be analyzed later on. And data analytics are going to play a very big role in our food business in the future. Why I'm saying this is going to be an exciting time is any business from now on needs to be run as professionally as possible for them to survive henceforth. The intuition kind of a business is not going to work here. You have the passion, fine, it is very nice that you have passion, but without all these figures, you are not going to be a good business person. Every single headline that you add on into your expenses column or your data collection column is going to help you in understanding your business better. Have more columns, you will have more data, and that's going to save you in the long run. Thank you, Rahul.
Something in the present scenario that you would like to add is your COVID expenses, COVID related expenses. Uh, that could be an added area for your supplies. Now, I will move to the next slide, which basically talks about the entire business model itself. Now, again, we would like to highlight these are all hypothetical figures, and I have basically computed this in a negative manner so that I'm here to basically project to you that food business as such is a business with very thin line margin if you have your factors into control. Okay, and here in a typical scenario, in this case that we have computed, it is in negative, so you're not actually earning profit as per this business model. So again, this is again just for computation and just to make you understand what are the factors that we are going to bring in. So from the first slide, I've basically brought in this figure, which is 82 lakhs 12,500. I hope you can see my cursor on the screen, and that's the total revenue that we drew from the slide number one. And we have taken 35% as the food cost, which comes up to this figure that you see here. Now, let me tell you, 35% is on the highest possible side. If you have computed anything above this, please be rest assured that your business is going to be into deep red, as we would say. Your rent and other rates, which have been calculated here for 4,000 square feet at 50 rupees per square feet, which works out to about 24 lakh rupees. We did our earlier sheet with the payroll related expenses. Now, this is the annual figure related to that. The other figure is related to your kitchen and fuel. Uh, there are other expenses, which are your electricity, your consumables, your fixed expenses, for example, your office, genset licenses, etc., and total expenses, which computes here. Now, your expenses are more than your profit. So typically you're in a loss here, is what I'm trying to bring about in this case. Now, we have certain thumb rules that we follow, and I would basically ask Venkatesh sir to, or Chef Bala to give in their thumb rules that we follow when we are doing such mathematical models before we actually give a go ahead for the business. Chef Bala? You're muted, Chef. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can go ahead now.
Like we say, we call it the SOPs, the standard operating procedures that we need to keep in mind, whether it is a very small business or a big business. That is very important because it is always those track sheets, those P&Ls, those analytics, and the data that we collect and we convert that into an information is very, very important. To bring about how to go about in the future and how to plan ourselves for the next sectors of business down the line. So it is always wise that we keep track of all the data, whether we are selling it or we are bringing it into our accounts in immaterial what. It can start with your entire receiving model, your entire processing model, and your entire selling model to wastage, and you need to track everything like from consumables, from electricity, gas, petrol, charcoal, diesel, water, everything. We should not leave anything, and it's nice that we bring about everything into our system, because people normally think when they talk about food business, they simply categorize itself like, okay, we are just going to procure some ingredients, we are going to process the ingredients, and we are going to sell and make money. No, it is not that. When we talk about simple overheads, administrative overheads, when we simply say a restaurant, a small restaurant, it starts with the bank charges, the EDC machine charges, the bike petrol for delivery, the charcoal they use for tandoor, the gas, the genset diesel, even the internet bills, license renewals, even the small maintenance expense, a number of things are going into the figures. So I think we need to consider all these things very seriously.
Shiva, as a thumb rule, I mean, in terms of percentage, what would you advise as a food cost percentage?
Yeah. When it comes to a thumb rule, I would simply say when we talk about a small business in a place or a city like Chennai, 10 percentage, I think we should keep it for the rent. But normally it varies from 7 percentage to 15 percentage. And when it comes to salary of staffs, I think we should start at least from 15 percentage to 25 percentage for the salary. And sometimes it goes higher and sometimes it goes lesser depending on the module of food business. And then comes to the food cost or the raw material cost. We call it FC or RMC. It goes for all manufacturing units or any kitchens or bakery, sweets, namkin, any kind of food business. It depends on the kind of cuisine or the category of products they are going to go about. Say, for instance, let us talk about a Chinese food. The raw material cost will be little lesser because they are mostly not using, or we should say they are confined to use some liberal ingredients when it comes to finishing a Chinese product compared to an Indian gravy. Sometimes Indian gravies are expensive because they are using all ingredients like kaju, butter, cream, and bigger volume of ingredients, while the Chinese food goes into just coating with corn flour and finishing off in a different pattern. So the food cost may range from simple 25-30 percentage to 40-45 percentage. And if the business is too small and if they're selling price is very less, the percentage will go high. Say a small kiosk where the owner himself is a part of the kiosk and he is having just one assistant, he can afford to sell a small product like a samosa or a small puff into a very small price compared to bigger bakeries or bigger restaurants and things like that, because he just want to keep his salary as a part of his overheads. Very simple as that, and he can sell it for maybe 10 rupees, where the samosa or the puff cost maybe even 50 percentage or 60 percentage when it comes to selling it. So that is one part, and we also need to keep a track of consumables like power, electricity, gas, charcoal. All those things should fit in maybe like 3 percentage to 8 percentage depending on the business module. And then we have the rent, that is going to be the big chunk. As I said, that is we have started with that, like 10 percentage goes to rent and 25 percentage goes to salary, 30 percentage, 35 percentage goes to raw material cost, and then your consumable cost maybe like 8 percentage or 10 percentage. And you've got small other expenses like maintenance, cleaning, stationaries, and things like that, laundry, and depending on the module. Profit, I think we should make at least in food business 8 percentage to 22 or 25 percentage maximum, depending on the place, location, and the module. Maybe a popcorn shop inside a theater might make a bigger profit than anything else comparatively. Yeah, that's that.
Venkatesh sir, can I request you for concising that pointers in terms of
Okay.
the percentages?
This is one area which can be spoken about for the whole day. So before we go into more details, I would like the new entrepreneurs to understand the percentage of profit that you probably can make is in the range of 8%. To do that itself is a very big task. So if you are assuming that you're going to make 100% profit, please don't come into this business. This is not the business for you. If you're talking about 8% to 12% or 20, depends on the location and depends on various other factors. Now, having said this, I would like to make people understand 8% on 10,000 rupees may not sound exciting, but 8% on 1 crore will sound exciting. So it is all about, this business is all about how much turnover you can do. And it is also about how well you can plan your food cost. Food costs can be planned by understanding what are the top best selling items in your restaurant. This is for existing hotel owners, what I'm talking right now. You already have a matrix of items which are being sold. Now is the time, because we are going to restart the whole business. We are starting from ground zero. It is very important that you people understand your top 10 or 20 best selling items. These items are the ones which are either giving you profit or pulling you down. Now, when we talk about top 20 selling items, I request you all to start scrutinizing these even more carefully, understanding what is the raw material cost involved in this, trying to make a food recipe costing sheet. When I say a recipe costing sheet, I mean all ingredients used for making that particular product goes into that sheet, and then you make it in bulk. Suppose you're saying tea or coffee, you say, okay, 5 liters of milk, sugar, tea powder, ginger, whatever. Take the total cost and divide it by the number of cups that can be sold. You will get a cost per cup. Now, understanding this is very important in this business. Henceforth, that is what is going to save your business. So, food costing, recipe costing, and what Chef Bala said right now, understanding the percentage is more important. A lot of us do not look at percentage. We always look at rupees. Rupees are not relevant in this business. Every expense should be broken down to a percentile. Then you will understand whether month on month your profitability or loss is being made in which segment. Each segment, like when he said about consumables, fuels, laundry, each thing, that's why I said the more number of headings you have, the more breakup that you can get. So the more you can scrutinize where you are going right or where you're going wrong. If you're going wrong, please don't feel bad. Just cut that particular item. A lot of owners feel that by stopping that item, the customers will stop coming. No, they will not stop coming. They will come because that is not the only item that you're selling. Or if you feel that is the only item that you're selling, please understand you have to increase the price to make it profitable. Do not sell items which don't make profit. And this subject is a very big subject. I think you can take the whole day talking about this, but we are just trying to help people understand how this business works. So we are just trying to tell the gist of things. Definitely, we will help people who want more details about this. Rahul, Bala, and me are available at any point of time. So we would probably give you advice on this. Thank you.
Sure. Alisa, would you want to give in any points from your side on this? Rajesh, can you?
Yeah. The thing is that I think most of you guys have covered most of the very important thing. And in my experience, I see, including myself, when I worked with Reddy sir and so many other people, as business owners, we don't think that these things are very important. It's they always say, starting something without a plan is as good as planning to fail. So unless you have the details and you need some directions to do it, like Reddy sir and many of you also had reiterated, it's not necessarily everything will go as per this plan. There'll be so much deviation, right?
True.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the thing is that it is always important to have a direction in which we need to travel, and for this plan is very, very important. It keeps things a lot level-headed and helps us to always do something that is pre-mortem rather than post-mortem, right? So it always gives us a lot of heads up in terms of where we should head, rather than be surprised towards the end of the month and realize that you've accounted for so much of loss, or things didn't go as per your plan. So it is very, very important that you need to have your basics right. This is very true for people who are starting up. This is also very true for people who are already doing the business but have no idea in terms of these kind of a prerequisite for them to have a focus in terms of doing better than what they actually are doing.
Thank you so much for those inputs, sir. Now, this becomes your Bible for the business that you're starting, to always go back month on month and try to match your projections. That's the way you're basically trying to be in business. These become your figures, and you can always, what you can always do is you can always recompute the model, keeping in mind the business environment that keeps constantly changing. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. Now, I'm going to be quickly running through the next slide, which is compliances to be met. I know most of the business owners here are already into the food business. For the ones who are planning to start something, these are a few important compliances that you need to meet. For example, your company registration, the space that you're going to be taking in. This is the most important thing. You always need to keep in mind that it needs to be a commercial space, and you need to be paying commercial tax for that place, because that becomes the basis for you applying for your food safety license, your trade license, your NOCs from the police and from the fire department. Uh, then you require a GST registration. You need if you're playing music or if you're having live performances, you need the respective licenses for that. You also need to keep in mind the other factors like your weights and measures. Your weighing scales need to have their annual licenses renewed. Provident fund, professional tax, generator and lift licenses. These are something that need to be and the most important thing, the building needs to adhere to the Indian Building Code, which is the fundamental of all building codes. I mean, many times there are deviations, and then basis that you don't get the license for your space. So please keep in mind that all these are very important before you even sign up for your building.
Today, having said
Sorry.
this, I also want to say that today it is better to be inside the law as far as possible, because a lot of things are being recorded, a lot of things are being directly online. So it's very difficult for people to try to do adjustments and manipulations. So all new hotel owners who want to come into this business, I suggest they take commercial spaces, try to check if the building has got the completion certificates, and try to understand if they are fitting into the fire norms and the safety norms which the people are asking for. Because when accidents happen, if any of these are not there, you are liable directly. The building owner is not liable, you are liable as a business owner. So please be careful when you're doing this.
I would also like to give the example here of Chennai city per se. There's also a rule that you need to have adequate parking spaces for food safety, for food service outlets. And over and above that, Food Safety Standards Authority of India, which gives you the FSI license, FSSAI, we will talk about that in the slides coming further down. They talk about a lot of self-declaration that you need to do from your side. Now, other than the business model, you also need to have in place standard operating procedures. These are documented procedures on how you're going to be running your business. Now, I'm going to give you a sample table of contents of what a SOP actually contains. It contains the introduction, which basically talks about the topic. I mean, the document per se, it gives an introduction to the business, the vision, mission, the values of the company. It talks about the structure of the SOP itself, and it may probably talk about the experience that you're wanting to give to the customer, and also moments of truth. From a people's perspective, it will talk about team structure, roles and responsibilities, uniform, grooming, behavior and communication, body language, telephone etiquettes, things like that. Uh, from a place perspective, it will talk about your layout, both from a front of the house, that is your restaurant dining space, as well as the back of the house, layout of your equipments, the cutlery, crockery, glassware that you would typically keep, with photographs in the document. How do you maintain your cleanliness? How do you maintain your cashier's desk? Restrooms, what are the cycle of cleaning of your restrooms, common areas, and how do you maintain your delivery vehicles and the delivery uniform itself? From a product perspective, you talk about the processes that you're going to be following while receiving food, while processing it, before service, after service. That's mise en place, mise en scene in the typical hotelier terminology. We talk about how you're going to be doing door delivery and how you're going to be closing your shift. From a cashier perspective, a cashier typically handles the phone, so the telephone etiquettes come into play there. Customer complaint handling, customer feedback, equipment handling, and then your appendix, glossary, and forms and templates that you're going to be following in the business. So would you want to add anything to this?
A lot of small companies do not have this SOP in place. I think the big chains do have, and the big hotels do have. But I think it is time that even the small and the smallest of people understand the requirement that is needed. They need not have a very elaborate SOP, but they should at least be aware that such things are there. Now that we have shown you what these things are, try to create a small diary for yourself where you can probably make a note of what you want to do rather than what should be done, and you can start off with a small way and it can definitely grow. Every SOP will change. There is no SOP which has been a standard. When I started my career way back in 83, there was an SOP for the kitchen. Now that SOP is no longer redundant. It's totally redundant. We can't use any of those. The equipments have changed. The concept of food has changed. The concept of even takeaways and counters and buffets have changed so much that those SOPs will not be in place. So reviewing your SOPs for the bigger hotels are a compulsion. Lot of people do not review their SOPs. This is where the problem starts. When anything new comes, when an IT company is able to come in with a new concept or a software or something that can reduce the burden, please accept that changes, change your SOP, and make sure that your profitability increases because you are able to manage using a computer or artificial intelligence. The future is going to be a lot of VR, AR. So a lot of things are going to keep changing. So it is very important that the bigger companies do a review of their SOPs immediately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Coming over to, okay. We again touching this in very brief, although it's a detail. We always call this a live document. It is always evolving, constantly changing as per the market demands, as sir has already put forward. Uh, Now, coming over to running your businesses, you typically need to have your indent sheets. Not many places I've seen they have these sheets. These help you document your daily purchase, your daily requisition from your stores. You also need to have your standard recipe. This is a typical template of a standard recipe. Here we talk about who has actually created this recipe from the kitchen, who has reviewed it after the dish has been created, who has approved it from the management side. Their names are documented, the dates are documented, and their signature is taken. Again, this also has revision because I can't have my uh, recipe same because customer over time would get bored of it, and also your chefs may change and they would like to bring about slight change. So the revision history always needs to be kept, and this becomes your parent document to basically keep your food the same way as it is served time and again. Then we come to the ingredients bit. Now, in this document, we have not done the food costing, but typically there is a food costing which is done along with this, keeping the current market prices in mind, and then the procedure for making your dish, how do you serve it, and a photograph of the dish. This basically becomes a standard recipe template. Venki, so
Bala,
would you like to add something?
Bala, Bala, Bala.
Bala, Chef Bala? Chef Bala?
Sorry, I was on
Yes.
mute. Yeah,
No problem.
recipe template is something that every food manufacturer, those who have kitchens, small eatery, food service owners, and all those people should have. Of course, star hotels and bigger business are already having. That is what I hope so. And the new entrepreneurs who are getting into the food business should know that this is more like the spec sheet. Chefs, we call it a recipe spec and recipe sheet, and we call it by different names. This adds more value, and this, as Mr. Rahul said, has to be checked time to time, and every recipe should have a recipe costing. And I would like to add on to it, recipe costing cannot be done on a generic mode. A recipe that is costing so much in Chennai may not cost the same in Mumbai or Delhi. So it is always wise when we talk about food cost in general, calculating your P&L, you always consider your indent costing. Indent costing is on a bigger scale. Every day you make an indent, you take the value of the indent and you take that to your P&L. Recipe costing is evaluating your menu per dish for your menu prices. This is more oriented towards menu prices. Indent costing is more oriented towards a P&L. That is more important. And this is a nice thing that every business owner should keep, as Mr. Rahul said. Please proceed, Mr. Rahul.
We've got some
Um,
wonderful feedbacks coming in. Yes, you can always have a QC checklist for the dish as well, as Mr. Murali Krishnan has told us. And yes, we are keeping in mind your questions in the chat box. We will be addressing them towards the end of the session as much as we can. Uh, there was one question about why food safety is becoming a norm now. Well, food safety was always a norm, just that many of us did not follow. Um Now we'll come to menu engineering, which is going to be the most interesting topic of the day. I'm sorry, my presentation is actually missed out two important points here on the screen. Uh, Menu engineering, this is how you basically cost your items on the menu card that is basically printed and given to the guest. Now, this is typically divided into four segments: a plow horse, a star, a dog, and a puzzle. It basically talks about the popularity of your item versus the profitability of your item in terms of its contribution to the gross profit itself. Now, what are plow horses? From the matrix, you can actually see that plow horse is typically an item with high popularity, but actually contributes less to your revenue in terms of the gross profit. uh, a star item is something that has high popularity and has higher contribution to your gross profit. For example, your beverages are very good star items. Many places you would see that your beverage on the menu is typically priced higher, and this is the reason. There's a science behind why things are priced the way they are, and that's the science that we are talking about. Dogs are typically those items which have low popularity and also have very low contribution to the gross profit itself. And puzzles are items with high profitability but very low popularity per se in terms of its contribution to the uh, gross profit margin itself. Now, the next topic for discussion is going to be food safety, and we as consultants always believe that food safety has to be built into design. It's not an afterthought. It has to be built when your space is being built, because there are a lot of things that need to be kept in mind. uh, your design basically has to have key movement patterns uh, uh, that are that needs to be kept in mind. For example, here, the pattern of how your raw materials is received to how it is processed to how it is served is one single direction of movement of the raw material to the serving. It doesn't come back. uh, in terms of your, after your food is served, your soiled plates, they come back, they get pre-rinsed, they get washed, they get rinsed again, they get dried, whether it's mechanical drying or air drying, and then it's stacked. Now, COVID would bring about a lot of changes, and that's not documented here. We are working towards that. And then we talk about how your garbage movement happens. Typically, your floor garbage is taken from the floor to the garbage, to the and from the production area, from the serving area. All this on a single floor plate comes to the garbage store, and then it comes basically from the garbage store. It's actually kept in a cold room from where it's actually dispatched or dispensed out to the government vehicles that take away your garbage. Uh, Something that we always need to keep in mind: food safety laws are not the same as they were a couple of years back. FSSAI, after coming into its after it becoming an act a couple of years back, the fines are phenomenal, and in certain cases, it also leads to imprisonment. So I would like to highlight that if you're not going to be following the food safety guidelines and adhering to them, you're going to be in big soup. Having said that, it's a good time for people who have not you know spent money in revamping their facilities to do so in a phased manner. I know that businesses are suffering, but you wouldn't want the FSSAI worked in a very simple manner. First, they wanted to get everybody enrolled. Once they build their database is where they're going to come back attacking you, whether it's a small cart owner or whether it's a star hotel. This law applies to everybody. So just giving you some fines on the screen that you must have probably even seen. If you serve unsafe food, I would like to highlight the fine could be as minimal as 1 lakh rupees, or I mean as up to 1 lakh rupees, and it could also lead to 6 months imprisonment. If somebody has a grievous injury, your imprisonment could be as much as 6 years. And if somebody dies out of food poisoning or any other foodborne illnesses, you could even be imprisoned uh, for life, and the minimum fine is not less than 10 lakh rupees. Uh, Interfering with food safety officers uh, while they're doing their job could also lead to a lot of fines. So if they're coming in, please let them do their job and please follow the guidelines given by them. I would like to hand over the floor to Ms. Geeta Venkat. Uh, uh, I was seeing the chat box a few seconds ago, and I basically realized that there were a few questions in terms of standard operating procedures and standard recipes. Now, please keep in mind that this document is not a standard document for everybody. An SOP is a document that how you are going to be running your business, the kind of experience that you want to give. So the document actually is separate from every restaurant to restaurant. It's not the same document. It keeps changing from restaurant to restaurant or outlet to outlet or even business model to business model. And standard recipes as well. Costing is very important. That basically helps you develop your P&L. Over to Geeta, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rahul. So here, I would just like to continue with the HACCP that you had just spoken of. It is, as we all know, this is a standard or a guideline for all food industries, whether it is the catering sector or the manufacturing sector, in order to implement them to facilitate production of safe food. Um, Coming to the topic of discussion of cheap food to preparing safe food. Now, food safety is a very wide topic to discuss, ranging from in simple terms, it is just to protect the food from any type of contamination, and I'm sure we all know about that. So, not only that, I would say in broader terms, we discuss about food defense and food security that needs to be taken to protect our food. But rather than going into a broader spectrum, I would just like to focus on a very simple concept. I understand that there was a message saying that why would we emphasize on cleaning and sanitation when it is a norms that needs to be followed in the industry. It is very true, but unfortunately, uh, I would say here very less focus is given on cleaning and sanitization based on what I have experienced. Now, for example, we do not actually know what is happening behind the production or in the production floor. If a layman as a customer or consumer doesn't know what is happening inside the industry, similarly, we do not know what is happening inside the kitchen. It is up to us and to take up the responsibility to ensure that there is proper cleaning and disinfection and sanitization happening in order to protect our food from any sort of physical, chemical, or microbiological contamination, in order to deliver safe food to the customer. So here, on a broader spectrum, now in simple terms, many organizations lack a simple cleaning schedule in place. What is a cleaning schedule? It is nothing but a simplified form of saying that what needs to be cleaned, how it needs to be cleaned, who takes up the responsibility of cleaning, what chemicals need to be used for cleaning. So these are some specific or a simplified SOP for cleaning and disinfection and sanitizing. Now, these terminologies may be a jargon many people would not understand. They might use sanitizing and disinfection as a common term. No, sanitizing, I would say, is a very lighter form of disinfection, combining both cleaning and disinfection together. A milder form, we say we sanitize our hands. We do that when our hands are not dirty. We just need to ensure that by sanitizing, it just reduces the microbial level to a safe level, from a higher level to a safe level rather. Disinfection is a very stronger version where you have a proper strong chemical that is being used for eliminating as much as possible of microorganisms. So disinfection is definitely a compulsory step and cannot be, and sanitizing cannot just replace disinfection. I want the people in the industry to know. And one more additional factor when I'm talking about cleaning and disinfection, the priority or the I would say the people who are involved in cleaning and disinfection, they need to be understood, they need to be made to understand that they are carrying on a very important job, which I find is lacking. Because when we say cleaners, they are sometimes disrespected, or they are not, they do not understand that they are really carrying out a very important job. You might understand, if you can just think from the industry perspective, if cleaning does not happen properly, however good that your product may be processed, or however good that you might prepare in your kitchen, the final food that is coming out is definitely not safe for consumption. So which means people who are involved in cleaning and disinfection definitely play a major role in preparing safe food. That is their role. So when in an organization totally, they need to be made, they are a major role player in ensuring that food is going out safe. So cleaning and sanitizing definitely plays a major role in the food industry. And one more thing to add on, people really need to be, people especially who are involved in cleaning and sanitizing, they really need to be trained on the procedures and the usage of chemicals, handling of chemicals. I know these are all very common topics and everybody is aware of it. But really, to put it into use is very important at this stage. And predominantly, I think one of our participants, Mr. Satish Kumar, very well said that you need to expose your kitchen, you need to reveal it to the public so that people get confidence that you are preparing safe food. Use of headgears, use of masks, use of gloves, everything in the right way. If it is being, if people are able to see that proper care is being taken within the facility, your customer base can definitely improve. Similarly, even in a production facility, if it can facilitate with all care taken, all visitors policy implemented, if people can really come and witness what care is being taken to produce safe food, definitely the client base will increase. Cleaning and sanitizing, there is no compromise on these aspects. And as I said, this is just not the only thing to focus on food safety. We have something called food defense care that you would take so that there is no sabotage on your food. What precautions you would take right from the security personnel who is going to question the people who are entering, who is going to check the vehicles which is coming into the facility, be it the delivery vehicles or people who are just going to come and pick up your food, the product for delivery, anything, everything that is being checked. So starting from there, our food security starts. Okay, the protection that we give food. How otherwise can contamination or a sabotage happen into our food? So this is a big exercise that respective industries and organizations have to carry out and ensure that you take an action. So they basically develop an action plan to ensure that none of these kind of unforeseen circumstances happen and your food still remains safe for consumption. So to sum it up, so you will have to have proper SOPs in your respective places. Now this is again not a very common template. Each of your organization will have your own ways of implementing food safety, food security. So these have to be individually developed and implemented, recorded. So record keeping is essential. So you will have to try to develop the SOPs, respective organizations, be it catering, be it manufacturing. You will have to develop SOPs, implement them, and record them. Definitely, we could be of assistance in helping you to develop a system if required. Otherwise, please ensure that you develop. And now, when I come to records, nobody is asking you when especially when it comes to HACCP and food safety, there is a lot of record keeping that is involved about daily cleaning. This is the chemical that to be used. Now, these records, nobody is saying that you have to maintain 100 records. We need information, even if it is in the form of a register. If one register is containing 5 to 6 information, that is more welcome. And record keeping is very essential to prove and evidence that all these safety measures are taken and implemented. Now, coming on to the chemical part, there is a lot of confusion on what chemical to be used. Now, here, as FSSAI is recommending, there are certain uses. Now, for example, for cleaning of for food contact surfaces, the use of detergents which is food safe. Now, for example, there are a lot of companies which are marketing their own chemicals. What we need to do is check on the material safety data sheets. Whichever is being recommended for use in the food industry, only such chemicals need to be used. And similarly, coming on to disinfecting, different disinfection chemicals and sanitizers, all food safe material safety data sheets have to be verified, and only food safe chemicals need to be used. And most commonly, isopropyl alcohol, which contains more than 70% of alcohol, is used because it is considered to eliminate most of the bacteria, and most importantly, it does not damage or it does not have a corrosive nature on any metal. As we all know, in a food industry, we are most prominently using stainless steel, and of course, nowhere it is recommended stainless steel. The major recommendation given by the FSSAI or any regulatory authority is that the equipment has to be smooth, easy to clean, non-toxic, non-corrosive. It should not peel. It should have very less crevices, so on and so forth. So when you consolidate all this, the most user-friendly metal would be the stainless steel, and that is what is recommended for a food industry. Now, and this isopropyl alcohol, for example, is a chemical which is user-friendly and can be used to eliminate a lot of microorganisms. And of course, we do have other chemicals like the quaternary methyl butyric acid, which is recommended. That is again for food contact surfaces and also for washing fruits and vegetables. Most importantly, chlorine disinfectant being used to eliminate microorganisms on fruits and vegetables when they are not going to be cooked before serving. So use of chlorine, again, there is a range of chlorine concentration starting from 50 ppm to 150 ppm depending on the thickness of the peel. Hard vegetables, hard fruits, soft fruits. So based on which the chlorine concentration is adjusted with the respective contact time, and then you are using that for food preparations. So similarly for food contact surfaces also, we have a specific chlorine concentration, or the, as I said, the isopropyl alcohol that is being used to eliminate microorganisms. And coming on to the chlorine part, it is always better to refer to the material safety data sheets that are provided by the organizations, to follow their instructions, to have, it is a kind of a validation which is being done and given to for you to use such chemicals effectively. So these are certain things which we need to keep in mind. And most importantly, with the current scenario, I would also try to emphasize major areas in the food industry which needs to be disinfected, where the bacteria and other microorganisms which needs to be eliminated would include food contact surfaces, hand contact surfaces. So wherever there are a lot of hand contacts happening, please kindly ensure that those areas are disinfected. And wherever there is food coming into direct contact with equipments, they also have to be disinfected. So this is something which we really need to keep in mind. And all this will need to be done to ensure that the final product that is coming out of our organization, be it catering or manufacturing, is definitely safe for food consumption or for the customer consumption. So this is something, some area where if help required, definitely anytime anybody can approach, and we'll be ready to help you out in implementing such system. So with this, probably I will hand it over back to Rahul. So Please kindly take over.
Sure, ma'am. If you can see the screen, I've basically displayed, a 7-step process that's typically followed while, implementing HACCP, which is nothing but hazard analysis at critical control points. So, would you like to just throw upon a quick 5-6 lines on the 7-step process, or do you think it's self-explanatory because I've kept it very broad?
Definitely. I can definitely explain in simple terms. I'm sure many of the people in the industry will already know what HACCP is, but then yes, for me to explain, I will definitely say the first step being conducting a hazard analysis. In any food industry, we have, as I said, the physical hazard, chemical hazard, and the microbiological hazard. So here in any food industry, be it a catering or a manufacturing establishment, we do a hazard analysis starting from the receiving of raw materials, step by step, receiving, storing, preparation, production, packaging. If it is a manufacturing sector, you have the packaging, finished goods store, and then you have the dispatch. If it's a catering establishment, you have the receiving of raw materials, storing in the chilled, frozen, or the dry store, preparation, processing or cooking, and then you have the service or cooling step. Now you might have 4 different steps of cooking and serving, or cooking, cooling, and serving, cooking, cooling, reheating, and serving, or there could be a no cook step at all in case of salad preparations. So in simple terms, we are going to be in this HACCP. It requires each step to be assessed for physical, chemical, and microbiological hazard. And when you do a hazard analysis, a risk assessment, you try to identify which are the critical control points where you need to establish control measures in order to ensure that food is safe for consumption. When I say critical control points, they are the last step of control of microbial hazard, last step of control of physical hazard, last step of control of chemical hazard. So physical, chemical, and microbiological hazard. So that point is identified as a critical control point, and steps are taken, procedures are developed in order to ensure that particular step is controlled effectively and effectively, I would say. And coming to the third, coming to what would you control at the critical control point? In order to answer this question, we develop certain critical limits, a value which separates acceptability from unacceptability. So when you define a critical limit, you start monitoring for that critical limit so that your critical control points are really within the control, it's under control. And in case there are any deviations happening, we have the corrective actions procedures ready in place to take action to bring the process back under control, a situation under control. And finally, in order to verify whether the above steps are perfect or running smoothly, we have something called a verification procedures. So you develop procedures to ensure that your HACCP is running smoothly. These are your verification procedures. And finally, you have the record keeping, which is an evidence that all the above steps are implemented effectively, and hence they are evidence to prove that your HACCP has been implemented effectively. Now, these seven, I would just try to rephrase. These are 7 principles of HACCP. HACCP is implemented in 12 steps, and these are the 7 principles of HACCP, which is a part of the 12 steps. I would like to summarize the 12 steps. You start with assembling the HACCP team. Second, you start describing your product or the process. Thirdly, you identify the intended use. Who is going to be your target consumer and how are they going to use your product? Fourth, you're going to develop a flow diagram for the product or the process. The fifth step is to do an on-site verification of the flow diagram and confirm that this is the flow diagram on which the HACCP study is going to be done. And then you proceed with conducting the hazard analysis for that approved flow diagram. You identify the critical control points, you establish your critical limits, you are going to have monitoring procedures, then you have corrective action procedures developed, then you have verification procedures followed by record keeping. So these are the 12 steps of HACCP, and in simple, these are all procedures developed before HACCP is actually implemented in a facility, and after which the verification is done and confirmed that HACCP is running smoothly and effectively. So this is what it is. Coming on to PRPs and OPRPs, I would say PRPs, the prerequisite programs. These are certain procedures or practices which need to be in place before even starting to implement HACCP. This is like a foundation. PRP is like a foundation for a HACCP program. If the foundation is not clear, HACCP will fail. And OPRP, now this is a term people who are familiar with ISO 22000 and FSSC 22000 will be able to understand OPRP, Operational Prerequisite Program. The difference between these two, PRPs are the generic ones. Now, for example, a pest control program or a cleaning and sanitization program or a personal hygiene program. These are all these are common ones, practices implemented irrespective of whether you have a HACCP in place or irrespective of whatever product you're going to process. Leaving apart PRPs, these are very generic. Operational prerequisite programs are product specific. They are certain prerequisite program which is required for a particular product, processing of a particular product, or I would say a particular process. So this is a very elaborate topic. So OPRP is very specific for the product or the process. PRPs are very generic. This is what I would like to say at the moment in order to, so that I don't confuse all of you. Now, 6 golden rules. Yes, probably you can carry on, Rahul, your presentation.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, basically, here we're talking about 6 golden rules in any food service facilities. We would like to restrict with visitors other than people who have gone through the hygiene station per se. You have to restrict even the visitors to go through the hygiene station to enter your facility. Have proper hot and cold wash facilities. Have a proper cleaning and sanitization schedule. These are very important. You need to know when you're going to be doing your cleaning. How is your sanitization schedule happening? Whether it's happening, it's recommended that it happens before every session and after every session. And during every session, you have to tell your staff to clean as they go, because that makes your facility more safe in terms of food production. You need to have your daily rodent and pest control check, whether everything is in place. Do not allow people to work without proper uniform. When I say proper uniform, that would include your shoes and your chef caps and your neck scarves. These are important because your safety shoes in the kitchen are important for this person's safety. The chef cap is important so that the hair strands do not drop into food even by mistake. And your scarves are important because they would not allow the sweat to basically come down on the food. And you need to maintain an incident log book. That's very important, because if there are any incidents, you need to take it down with the time, who was involved, what were the actions taken, etc. So these are a few golden rules. Now, as per FSSAI, these are some documents that you need to maintain in your food service facility. And these are records that are in self-declaration nature. So if you're asked for these records, you need to self-declare it. Chef Bala, Venki Reddy sir, would you want to add something to this? Ali sir, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a great
Yeah,
topic. I
with
think
regards
most.
to the
Yeah, go ahead, Miss Geeta, please.
continue. No, continue.
No, no. I just want to say that it's a nice presentation. A lot of people are asking for the presentation, and I think Mr. Rahul will be sharing it. And
Sure,
since
definitely.
it's a vast topics and it is self-explanatory, and many of them can read it through down the line when they get the presentation or get to suite. So please go ahead, Mrs. Geeta.
Brijesh, I think you'll have to unmute, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we
Yeah.
can hear you now. You were coming to say
Hello.
something at that point of time. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. So I regard. Yeah, yeah, sure. Thank you. In fact, with regards to the uniform, I just wanted to emphasize. Now, one is whatever that we are saying in terms of uniforms, shoes, headgear, gloves, etc. It's with regard to food safety. Coming to toes, the toes have to be covered. These are all certain simple things. Uniforms shall not have any pockets, especially the front pockets, top pockets, to prevent physical any contamination. The uniforms should be light colored as much as preferred. Less, preferably, the buttons shall be replaced with Velcro. So these are certain things which we keep in mind in terms of food safety. Apart from that, when you say safety shoes, it is for food safety, but I would also emphasize on personal safety gears. People need to understand the gloves that they are wearing for the regular handling of food is not to protect their hands but to protect the food. The headgear that they wear is also to protect the food. But people who are involved in the cleaning activities, sometimes they, or like let's say people near the dishwasher, or people who are involved in deep cleaning activities, they wear the thick boots. So that is actually for their personal protection. They use the rubber latex gloves. People who are involved in using chemicals use rubber latex gloves. That is again to protect their safety. So, and people who are working in front of hot boiling liquid they are recommended to wear loose fitting clothes. That is again for their own safety. So people really have to understand which is for food safety and what is for their personal safety, and that needs to be implemented as required by the respective industries. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you,
Sure,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I request Mr. Mohammad Ali from our owner's perspective to say a few words on the current scenario as well as going ahead with the profitable food business. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of the panel members have shared some very important and very uh, much needed points right now. Actually, I have two backgrounds. I have background in manufacturing and in retail. So for some people in retail, the HACCP and all these other things coming right now as a mainstream form of FSMS systems might seem strange for the need of maintaining records and to have a certain kind of sanitization procedure and schedule and so many other documentation and things like that might look like a hassle. But since I also have a background in manufacturing, it looks pretty much normal to me. But the entire world is actually progressing to this, right? Either be it in retail or be it in manufacturing, these kind of systems and these kind of things are very essential. Now that the experts have spoken much about it, I just want to know how many entrepreneurs are here in terms of the food business, besides the professionals who are doing sales and services products such as that. How many entrepreneurs are there online? Can we have a show of hands, or can we have a quick click on in terms of people who are there in the business right now?
You could actually use the chat box to say yes.
Yes.
Yes, we see a few of them, Mr. Ali, on the
Yes,
screen.
I can see them. Well, it's good to know that that there is quite a lot of few entrepreneurs here amongst us. So, since most of the panelists are experts and they are masters of their own domain, I will just touch point from an entrepreneur's perspective in terms of what I feel essential. Even though Mr. Reddy has said that we should not use the C word being Corona, but I think that would be a center point of focus for a lot of us to realign our business and realign our thinking in terms of how to move forward in the F&B industry per se. So I think maybe a couple of months ago, a couple of years ago, we'd have all had up this presentation WhatsApp forward saying that just check out how Uber is. They are the world's biggest taxi company, but they don't own a single taxi. Check out Oyo. They're the biggest hotel and hotel company, and they don't own a single room. Be that for theaters, or be that for cloud kitchen, which was a big buzzword later now. But just a small disruption in form of a small virus. Today, where are they are? Today, Uber is going under, as it is. They were having a lot of other financial difficulties and whatnot. But now, Uber has been shut down for such a long time. Oyo holds the same, and so many hotels. Theaters, they are shut down indefinitely till things loosen up, and you can imagine the kind of losses and a lot of other things that might be occurring right now. I understand many theaters are having problems in terms of their seats getting bitten off, or the expensive projections getting bitten off by rats and whatnot. So these are the unexpected changes that is actually coming across business. We as entrepreneurs, we as business owners, right, through and throughout. In fact, a very clear definition of what a business person or an entrepreneur is basically someone who can actually try to manage in terms of uncertainty. And no doubt, right now is such a time of uncertainty. And these are the challenges that will keep coming. We have seen tsunami over here. If you're in the coastal zone, you have experienced the tsunami, how it was. Or for that matter, if you're from the Tamil Nadu region and you'd experienced Varda Puyal, how it had disrupted, or the passing of a politician, and now this coronavirus. So we have seen all this come and go through. One thing we have to remind ourselves is that change is the only thing that is constant, and we should be always prepared to face these kind of challenges. We as an entrepreneur, I think, have that in our blood, and I think we are capable of coming through this. So that is one. And the next thing I'd like to talk about is actually this is a great opportunity for us to innovate and for us to find our niche and specialty in terms of what we are really, really good about, right? So today, just like the menu, if you take food retail, right, we have 20 items that is there, and they earlier had spoken about cash cows or flow houses and whatnot. I think we need to focus and get back to basics in terms of understanding what is one thing that we're really good at, and try to exert a lot of focus and emphasis on trying to get into that particular segment, which will be very, very useful, right? So find out what will help you to meet your business objective and focus on that. Get to know your customers. This is going to be the new normal, so it's a great opportunity for you to get your customers. Some of you are in the manufacturing business, or some of the business will have you being the manufacturer, then you'll have a C&F, then you'll have a wholesaler, then you have a retailer. There's so much of layers in between, right? So there's a great opportunity for you to have a channel that you can actually have a full control of, right? Today, even food business, they depend on a third-party delivery like Zomato or Swiggy or one of these guys who have more information about their customers than you yourself do. They say that the artificial intelligence, the predictive systems for people like Swiggy in the future can actually tell that when Mr. Reddy will order the next biryani, or when Mr. Talwar will order the next chole bhatura. So that is how the predictive analysis, and that is how the business intelligence is actually warming up. Now this is a great time for us to try to develop this channel. A couple of years ago, I'm talking about 15 years ago, every restaurant used to have their own delivery system. They used to have their own customer database. I think now that is actually faded out. And what is the kind of charges that all the delivery platforms are charging. I'm not saying that they're bad, but I think it's high time that many of us try to connect with our core customers and really understand what they actually want, and try to address that and try to establish a good relationship with them. So at this point in time, I'll also like to pose a very philosophical question: is why is that the thing that you're doing it? Why are you doing certain things? For example, let's say I'm producing frozen foods, right? So I would like to know to myself that why am I in this business? If someone is going to answer, money is the reason. Money is actually only a byproduct of your effort. You really need to know. So for that, actually, I'm going to post a small TED talk from a guy called Simon Sinek. So it is there in the group chat. So I request every entrepreneur and every professional and anyone in the industry, please see the presentation. It will help you to give a lot of clarity in terms of what you're doing. It gives you a lot of clarity in terms of finding out the why. The why is very, very important in terms of why we are doing it. Many of us have been doing, being in the business for a very long time. We are in the profession for a long time. But if you really introspect and try to find out this why, I think that will give a lot of perspective in terms of the right direction for us to take. And besides this, right now, I think the only way for us to move forward is actually to adapt to the current, needs. For example, now they're going to say, if you have already have invested in a restaurant, they're going to say that, the dine-in is going to be controlled, or would have as much as people coming into it for a couple of more years till this pandemic is actually in control. So till such time, how do you survive? Are you going to focus a lot on your home delivery? So right now, what is needed for your business, no one knows better than you. So kindly adapt for this kind of a situation and try to upgrade your skills. I'm sure there are a lot of first-gen entrepreneurs who still have issues with using the computer or using digital marketing. So now is a great time, and so many webinars are available, so many online sessions available. And since everything is online, the cost of the course is also actually been reduced. So it's a great time to upgrade your skills, be it soft or technical, right? So that is a great opportunity for you to do during this time. Not to mention your operation also. Many times when business grows organically and through so many other channels, there'll be a lot of things that you need to actually streamline in your operation. Now is a great time for you to do that. If you want to build something in infrastructure, now is a great time to deploy it. Of course, you have money, and of course, try to adapt to the most commonly formed technology that has been made available to us. Earlier, it used to be, when we opening up restaurants, I have to keep coming to that point because that is something that I have experience relatively with, or for that matter, even the manufacturing right now. Restaurants now can actually target specific where your customers are going to come from. So they're going to use a social media platform like, say, Facebook or Instagram. They can actually target, for example, in Delhi, in Connaught Place, I want to get that all the people living in and around there, I can actually target and get it. In Bombay, in Santa Cruz, I want to get someone, people who like biryani, I can target that. That kind of technology is available. Try to learn this kind of technology and try to use it much for our business will be a really, really great help at this point in time. Another point I'd also like to touch. I'm very sorry, I'm just all over the place, but I hope that you guys are able to get the gist of what I'm trying to tell. Now is also a great time for you to, harness the power of collaboration, right? No more secrets, right? I mean, if you believe that, making a cake is actually a secret, you go to YouTube or whatever, and you have so much of recipes available. You have so much of professional chefs today available who can recreate the same kind of a recipe that you find in London, America, or Australia, or wherever, right? So there's no more secrets. Now you have to, be it your profession, right? Be it manufacturing or you're trying to the retail, try to harness the power of collaboration. So when I say collaboration, right, now you are during this lockdown or post this lockdown, right? Now a business has decided to go and reach out to the customers, right? You can try to reach out. For example, if I'm a sweets guy, right? I'm making traditional Indian sweets. I can try to partner with a guy who's in the bakery, and both of us together we can try to reach out to apartment complexes and housing colonies and things like that. And together we can work where we can actually share the cost of our delivery. We can share the cost of advertisement. So many collaborations that we can actually think of. Please do not fear that your secret will get taken. You have to hold close to what you think is your proprietary secret, and your things that you need to keep it close. But do not fear about collaboration. The world is really, really big, and it has enough space for all of us under the sun. So please do look into and think about finding complementary partners, right? If I'm an ice cream guy, I can think about tying up with a pizza. So these are the small kind of things. If I'm a manufacturing guy doing what do you call frozen food for that matter, I can try to think about tying up with a small frying machine selling company, maybe and together we can look into some sort of a joint promo and can try to do a demo. We have to be out there. We have to be out there in terms of trying to break to the customer, and now is a great opportunity for that. And another very important aspect right now, because of the lockdown and because of the worry that an entrepreneur might have in their lives, right? I'm sure a lot of us will be in a lot of psychological stress. So please do share your problems with the people you trust. Don't bore them. Try to share them as much as possible with the people whom you trust, your friends, your well-wishers, family. And of course, you have great experts on the panel here with us. Experts who can actually, have very simple solutions for things that you're not thought of. So please do reach out to people, and, don't be afraid to ask. It's not that, going to say that you've been in the business for such a long time. Don't you know even this? Don't even think about that. Unless you ask, you shall never receive. So please do ask in terms of the help that you do. And now is a great time also to involve your family also, because right now in the situation, right, when people are questioning, how do I train people? How do I retain staff? People in the area which are there, try to, now's the time for your family to step up and, believe in what you do, right? So it also depends upon how much ever that you are actually investing in the relationship with your family. So having a family involved is a very, very important thing. And more on the philosophical and the well-being side of it, please be kind to your employees. Now is the time for a lot of stress, a lot of worries, a lot of concern. So please be kind to your employees as much as you can. The vendors for the payment that you need to pay, and of course you have to also receive the same for many of the people. Be also to your family. Your children are all cooped up. Your wife has been, or husband has been, being taking care of the helping the family, and the cooking and the cleaning. So please be kind to one and all, and above all, please be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself down, right? Almighty has given us one life. Let us all live it well and live it very happy, and have faith and trust. The more you're going to give to the universe, the more you're going to get back. Please remember that. And very, very importantly, this too shall pass. So with support and Almighty's blessing, I think we all can work together coming out of this crisis, and to a new world which will actually support and try to grow this F&B industry altogether. I think that's my two bits as far as perspective from an entrepreneur. Unless the panel guys, do you have anything to add? Please do add to what I just said just now.
Very encouraging words for the entire industry, Shali. That's all, if I have to say in one simple line. That was really encouraging. I would like to I would like to hand over this. Chef Bala, do you have something to say, or ma'am?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful words from Mr. Ali there, and some of the points which I really had in mind. Mr. Muhammad Ali has started it up. Like, say, for instance, times back, we used to have our own delivery system. That was awesome. And as on condition, it's like a new beginning. I think our own delivery system adds a lot of value to our business. Like, say, instance, our branding gets free propaganda when our bikes or the delivery guys move around the city delivering the products. And another situation as of now, because of the infection and things like that, try to confine our delivery system with hours primarily, so that our delivery guys are clearly monitored, and the food being delivered from our kitchen is through our delivery guys, and it is we are more confident with our product reaching our end user. That is one thing that I would like to add on to Mr. Mohammad Ali's words on deliveries. And our own delivery system, as of now, as on condition, will add more profit to our business rather than going with aggregators, and because they are literally consuming a huge percentage of your profit, as well as from extra from your pocket, honestly to say. And it is very tough for many people to give away, but at least because of the situation, you can negotiate with your aggregators once again, and I hope they should come down on their percentage consumption of whatever products they are delivering. Now, that is one point. And there are other points which I would like to start upon, and once Mr. Rahul finishes up, I will just start it up.
Well, I'm kind of done with my presentation. I would actually want to hand over the floor to Venkatesh Reddy, sir. Do you have something before that, Chef Bala, to add on?
Yeah, a few topics I would like to add on, and there
Please,
were
Chef.
also some questions that has popped up. I would like to club along the answers to those questions from the chat box, along with my topics to cover.
Wonderful.
Here, when we talk about food business, it's a huge topic. It's there is the huge sectors, maybe hundreds of sectors are there in food business as such. When we talk about food business, starting from manufacturing, large commercial kitchens, central kitchens, catering divisions, restaurants, cafes, bistros, bakeries. There are n number of things that when we talk about food business. But since it's a huge topic, let us cover the bigger sector. The bigger sector, I would say, are these small business and the mid sectors and the mid lower sectors. Let us take, it could be a small startup of restaurants, kitchens, cafes, bistros, a bakery units or namkin units, or a kitchen that is catering to another divisions and things like that. I would like to show some light upon those things. Those people who are going to invest, are going to start a business in food industry, I suggest that they should see two values of existing business. When normal people, when they see a restaurant or a cafe or a business, existing food business, they only see the wow factor in that. I call it a face value. When somebody see a face value of a nice cafe, they see, wow, it's a great cafe and it should be doing a lot of profit and it is doing good and things like that. Or when they see a bakery or when they see a small food business, they get to feel this feel. It is a psychological factor that they are feeling. It is only the face value of the business. There is also something called commercial value that lies really behind the scene, that a normal person or a normal client or an audience cannot visualize when they see a business. A business that they assume to be doing awesome, or a business that they assume to be having a lesser overhead and bigger profit, may not be having such actual figure when they come into reality facts. Say, for example, a restaurant in Chennai, a big restaurant in Chennai, many people doesn't know the magnitude of the overheads they have. I can say, can you believe some restaurants in Chennai have a monthly rent of about 20-25 lakhs a month? A month, can somebody believe that? It is existing. And can you believe the number of staffs in a big restaurants, in a vegetarian restaurant, a huge restaurant in Chennai, have staff about 300, 350? Can you believe? Many people can't. They'll be shocked and to see or hear this fact, because they haven't seen the commercial value of a business. And magnitude of business is different. And they also make mistakes like they see a restaurant and they think they can do that restaurant themselves in a smaller budget. They assume a bad value or the wrong value. They might have maybe like 10 lakh, 20 lakh. They might see a nice cafe and they think that they can replicate that cafe or a kind of business and in a for a budget of 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. That may not be possible. So I suggest, whatever capital expense you have, you work or you do your engineering capex for that budget in your hand, and you need to have support from a professional. You cannot simply do some YouTube and Googling and start a food business. Come on, at least you have some deep analytics. Put your thoughts deeper into it. Connect with people who are already existing in the business or consultant, and then you do your analytics, mathematics. Then you know your shoulder strength. As Mr. Rahul said, you need to project a 5-year plan for your business, and you should also project your ROI for your business, and then only you should get involved into a food business. That is very important. And another thing, creating a food business, you should have three factors very strong. One is planning. You can take how much ever time you want to start planning a food business, because that is not going to cost you much initially, at least on the initial phase. Then comes to the actual project of the business, and then comes the operations. Operations is when entire your project planning comes into execution and your products are given out to the public or the end user or another business. It could be a manufacturing or a retail business. So these three factors, project planning and operations, has to be crystal clear by the time you're going into the operations or doing into your project and things like that. And during your food business planning, you should also target your audience. That is very important, because when you see the open crowd or the public or our Indian population, it has got different layers of crowd, different profiles of crowd. So when you're just fishing in a tank of fish, you cannot randomly put your net and capture any fish. It will take a longer time. It's going to be a tough process. You target your fish, you target your audience, and see what they want and what you're going to provide to them. And then you pitch forth your product, and then they would come to your store or your outlet or your business to procure the product or to go about. And many of them were also talking about the existing scenario, profit and food business, how to go about and things like that on the chat box. Yes, this is a great time to start a food business, because there's always a saying that when the share market is low for one particular company or one particular product, you cannot actually buy and stock more shares of that. And obviously, situation down the line will be better and it will be improving. And moreover, and there is also a positive note and negative note to the situation. There were many business that were not properly planned would have scrambled or just left that place empty. So there are some void places that need to be filled by new normal business entrepreneurs and new business owners. And the existing business owner with a better idea and knowledge, they would improvise the situation and they would step forward with better options, better products. They would re-engineer their menu, they would re-engineer their outlets, and they would target their audience in a better way. That is how it should go about. And tailoring your business. Many people, when it comes to a smaller business, we cannot have a bigger grid. We cannot think the whole country to be your audience. When you have a small business, you need to get tailored to your location. As Mr. Rahul said, location for a small business is very, very important, because a smaller product like a smaller restaurant need to get itself tailored to that locality. That is more easier, because your audience or maximum audience will be in a closer perimeter, maybe 3 kilometer or 5 kilometer. If you're making a small restaurant business, don't expect a crowd from across the country or across the state or district or a place to come to you. Or if you're a small manufacturing unit, you cannot expect a bigger audience, at least on the initial phase. So you try to cover up the local audience, you try to cater to the best wingspan of your business, and then you can step forward on the later stage, step by step. And also, if you're having a capex, if you think you have a capex of about 50 lakhs and you want to start a food business, or you say 30 lakhs, you cannot afford to start a business for exact 50 lakhs or 30 lakhs. Whatever you have in pocket, you cannot afford to dump it in and you start a business, because there is also something called running capital. When the business is starting, you need to project that running capital, and you need to go about putting in some money to add on values to your business, and you should push that business into full form. So try to confine at least for 50% or 75% of your initial investment into the capex. At least keep 25 into your running capital. That is a wiser move. And also, when it comes to food business or any sort of business, do not dump your entire life saving into it and tell people that, okay, I've started a food business, and next month I'm going to start making profit, and I'm going to become a millionaire like a movie's song does. That should not be the case. And I think you should start thinking about all your SOPs that should be in place, tracking sheets that should be in place. And another factor is branding. Branding is very, very important when it comes to your food business. And you keep your brands crisp and give yourself a color or a mascot, and it should target your end user. You cannot make a random brand and think that everybody should come in. You try to see your audience, try to convince them to come into your shop with your brand. So you need to project, and everything, whatever you want to say, you project with your brand, so that your target audience is very clear. And the brand adds a lot of value to your business. And naming your restaurant is also similar way. Try not to be religious or one particular community oriented, so that you have a bigger crowd profile. Try not to bring in community or creed wise or clan wise things into your brand. Try to keep it very open, try to keep it generic, so that you have multiple audience. At the same time, if you are having a B2B business, that is a wiser move as on condition, because B2B is like business to business. You have a bakery, try not to always try to push your product to the end user, like your walking or passing guest and clients. Try to give some of your product to another business. Like, say for example, a bakery can serve a cafe. It can serve a cafe with all its breads and desserts, so that this B2B business is happening on one side and your retail business is happening on one side. Try to cater to an industry. A factory is there near your zone, try to give cookies for their tea time, or try to give their tea cake for their tea time. This is business to business. A restaurant is running, say for example, it is giving continental food or South Indian food to their walking crowd, takeaway and home deliveries. They can also serve a kiosk that is there in some part of the city by giving them something. Let's say the kiosk is serving a wrap in a mall, and they cannot afford to have a bigger kitchen. So the kiosk can connect with the restaurant and get their fillings done in the restaurant, and procure their fillings and finish their wrap inside the restaurant. This is kind of a B2B tie-up that is more easy, and try not to invest more on unnecessary investment when you start a smaller business. These are all the few points that I would like to suggest, and there are a lot more points and topics when we talk starting up a food business, and anybody can connect with me personally if you think so, or Mr. Reddy or Mr. Rahul down the line. That's from me, Mr. Rahul. Please carry on.
Thank you so much for those valuable inputs, Chef Bala. Would like to hand over the floor to Venkatesh Reddy, sir. I think I'm personally awaiting his valuable inputs. Over to
Thanks,
you, sir.
Rahul. Thank you very much. I think most of us have spoken about what needs to be done. So my work is quite easy right now. So what I'm going to talk about is what most of the entrepreneurs are waiting to hear, I guess. How do we reopen our businesses? This is the area which I think every single entrepreneur is worried about. So let's start right from the beginning. I would like to say it is like restarting everything that we have done from the very beginning. All of us have started our businesses at ground zero. Today we are at ground zero again. So when we start asking for reopenings, the first thing I would start talking about is visit your premises, have a look at what is there, what has been damaged, what has to be cleaned up, how much of rats and infestations have come, so what we need to take care of. So start with the cleaning process as the very first thing. Take a stock of what needs to be done. Take a stock of all the items which are about to get expired. Make sure that you get rid of all the things that are not healthy or hygienic. Don't feel bad. This is what you need to do because safety is more important than anything else right now. Relook at every single aspect of your business. Think that you're starting new. This is a new venture for all of us. Look at the staff. I'm sure most of the staff have gone back. Very few staff are still in the premises, or some of them are there. Now we need to relook at what can be done. Staff are more scared than you. If you are scared, they are petrified because they are not sure if their job is there or the job is not there. So now is the time when you treat them like family because they are the ones who are going to run the business for you. Now is the time when you have to hold hands. Now is the time when you need to sit and have elaborate discussions with them, as taking points from them as to how we can come over this. I have done that with my 2000 odd staff, and most of them have given me fantastic ideas as what can be done, what cannot be done, their fears. So I think empathizing with your employees is the first step to success. If you have a team behind you, you are as successful as the team behind you. When I was way back working in Bombay, I had a professor who told me that when you look back, you need to see the number of people who are going to stand by you. If the number of people who are going to stand by you are only one, that means you're only 1% successful. If you have 10 lakh people standing behind you, you're 10 lakh times more successful. So get your staff, talk to them. Please talk to your staff. Now, when we talk about staff, we need to understand that there are different layers. There are managers, there are supervisors, there are workers, there are cleaners. So we have different salary structures for all of them. We can't go by one thumb rule of reducing 50% salaries for everybody. It's not going to work. A person at the lower spectrum, a 50% salary means you have destroyed him. So look at how we can work around this. There are a lot of staff who can be reallocated to do other things. We can talk to staff by asking them whether they are willing to work for 15 days and take a 15-day break so that everyone is in work for at least 15 days. So they will get a 15-day salary, which effectively means you're paying them 50%. Not all staff can be done this way. You can't tell a manager to work for 15 days and take a 15-day break. Here is where you need to understand that you need to tell the manager that you're going to make his cut a little more heavier than the persons who are at the bottom of the chain. Some managers may agree, some managers might leave, but fine. These are things and risks which we have to take. When we started our business, we never had that manager in the first place. And when we grow, a lot of managers have left us and we have got new people. So Understanding that we are going to get people is very important, but also understanding that we have to hold people who have been with us more importantly. Then your vendors. I am sure most of the existing hotel owners have dues for their vendors, because in all hotel businesses we have a tendency to say we will pay in 3 weeks time, 4 weeks time, 1 month time. I don't know. Each one has a different policy. Understand that your vendors who had supported you are now in crisis too. This is the time when you need to understand how much help can you extend to them. You don't sit on the branch and cut the branch, because you need to survive first. Only then your vendor can survive. Spend time with your vendors, talk to them, understand their problems. Some of them are very small vendors who may not survive if you do not support them. Some of them are very big vendors who also need your support, but will understand what you can do. But if you're going to have a vendor who's probably supplying eggs for you and he's only supplying eggs, and he decides to have a single bill process system, that means the last bill which you have not paid him has already killed him. So you please need to look at that vendor. Please support the vendors who are right down the bottom of the chain. I'm not saying don't support your other vendors, support them, but understand whom you need to pay first and whom you need to pay a little later. Now your requirements are going to change. Now what are the requirements changes that are going to happen? This is a time when we sit and take stock of every single solution that we need to understand. I presume that the business is going to bounce back very shortly, but I may be wrong. So I'm a very pessimistic guy when it comes to business. So when I'm wrong, my first intention would be, how much money am I going to earn? If I'm going to earn 100, how do I spend this 100? Now is not the time to think of huge profits. Now is the time to think of survival. Just survive for the next 3 months to 6 months. If you survive and your business survives for the next 3 months to 6 months time, you're going to be in the big league very shortly, because a lot of people are going to shut down. A lot of them are going to shut down because they are not going to understand the requirements for. So when we say requirement, now is the time when you start taking stock. If you're going to do deliveries, what are the deliveries you do, how you can do the deliveries. It's about now understanding what we can do. Any situation has a plus and a minus. I always look at the minus first, and then I start going ahead and doing the plus in a very big way. The minuses are there for a very short period of time. It is always the truth that stays ahead. Lies can never stay ahead for a long time. So making sure that you first understand yourself. Don't lie to yourself that your business is going to do well. Don't lie to yourself that everything is fine. No, everything is not fine. We are in a crisis. And when we are in a crisis, it is time when we sit and think logically. A lot of people in panic take wrong decisions. Don't do that. We don't need to do panic decision making right now. When we do a panic decision making, that is when the problems start, because you are not going to look at the bigger picture. You're going to look at the small picture and take decisions, and the bigger picture is going to swallow us. Requirements might change. When we say requirements might change, I'm saying the menus will change. When you change the menu, your requirement of staff will change. When your requirement of staff will change, so you need to understand how you can utilize your other staff and what can be done. So let us start looking at that also. Menu engineering, like what Bala and Rahul were telling, the most important thing now, understand where you're making your money. Understand where your loss making was happening. Try to reduce your loss making as far as possible. Every business has a profit. It cannot be a matrix of only profits. There are certain items which are loss making but have to stay on the menu to attract crowd. Now you start looking at those loss-making items more than the profit-making items. Look at the loss-making items which you definitely have to keep on the menu, because that is what is probably bringing in your people. So make that as less loss-making as possible. Let us assume that you're selling a coffee, which is a loss-making unit, but you're selling 1,000 coffees. Now, that means, let us assume that you're losing 1 rupee per coffee. That means 1,000 rupees you're losing on coffee alone. Now, can we change that 1 rupee loss to a 50 paisa loss? What can be done is what you need to think of. Your coffee should be the same. Your quality should be the same. Maybe you can change the quantity. Maybe you can change something else which will reduce your losses. See what can be done. Everything can be done if we look at it more clinically. Dissect every small thing into the smallest component and see whether that component is actually required or not. This is how we can do it. When we talk about your costing, the important factor now is procurement. If you can procure things at a cheaper cost, automatically your cost is going to drop. If you're going to procure things which are absolutely needed and not going to be stocked in your storeroom for 3 months, you are saving money. So understand what is your requirement in terms of your stock areas. Understand your storeroom. Understand items which are not fast moving, which have been stacked there. Please do not buy them now. You need to buy what is required on a daily basis, on a daily schedule, and make sure only what you require is done. Toyota has done it and they have always won. So why can't we do it in our food industry? It is a try. Now is the time when we have to try everything possible. Now is the time when survival is more important than profit making. We need to look at more analysis. Start analyzing your business. Every single component in your business needs to be analyzed now. When I talk about every single component, I am talking about every single component. If you are thinking your tissue paper cost is not much, rethink again. If you can make that a little bit more different, yes, see whether it can be done. Every small thing is going to contribute to profit now, because survival is the key of today's business. Food business will do extremely well. You don't have to worry about that, because without food, human beings cannot survive. But what is the form that it's going to manifest into is something that all of us have to start thinking and waiting for. The manifestation of this food industry is going to be something awesome, according to me. We are now in the steam age, steam locomotive age. I think we are going to go into the bullet train age. So when I say from steam age, we are going to go to a bullet train age, that means the technology also is going to change. Technology is going to play a very big role in food industry henceforth. Artificial intelligence, deep data analytics are going to be the future of this business. If we do not embrace that sooner, we are really going to have a problem. Start looking at what we can embrace onto us. Do not get scared of technology, because technology is the future of this industry too. We cannot say digital marketing will not play a role. Digital marketing is the only role. Nothing else is going to play a role. You cannot say analytics are not important. I'll say deep data analytics are more important. I'm not just talking about analytics. I'm talking about deep data analytics. If you talk about artificial intelligence, yes, it is going to take over in a very big way in the food industry. These are small things which I have foreseen, but I think it's going to play a very big role in everybody very shortly. We never knew Zoom. COVID has brought Zoom to us, and we are talking to so many people right now. If that can happen, a lot of things can happen too. Conferences will be happening in Zoom. That means my conference halls are not going to be empty. There are going to be Zoom conference halls available where you can have cubicles in the conference rooms and you're going to go ahead. So everything is just about a human being can imagine anything and do it if it's really required. Necessity is the mother of invention, and definitely we will invent a lot of new things. Now start thinking about new combo menus that can be introduced, new health menus that can be introduced, new takeaways that can be introduced. How can you do better delivery processes? These are things that we need to spend money on. I want you people out in the industry to think of things that can be done and start like what all of us feel, collaboration with each and every single person. Collaboration is going to be the future. No business is going to survive without collaboration henceforth. So what we need to do, if you're good at making sambar and you have the product of making 1,000 liters of sambar, see how you can sell your sambar to other restaurants too. You don't have to sell only 100 liters of sambar. If your chef is an excellent sambar maker, see how you can sell sambar everywhere. I remember starting this idli packet business in the early 90s. People laughed at me when I did it from a restaurant. The balance of the idli was given away as free to the people who came, and slowly we started charging them, and now we have an industry which is making idli and batter. This industry was probably a brain process and a thought process of me and one owner. Now it has become an industry by itself. When we started, we never thought it's going to do this. We just wanted to get rid of our old stock so that it does not get thrown into the dustbin. Today we have an industry doing that. If that can happen, a lot of nice things can happen too. Why I am saying all this is, there is no business better than collaborating. There's no business than teaching. When I started my company, my first thought was not about making money. My first thought about was making 500 new jobs in a year. I'm sure I've achieved it long back. Now, I'm not a consultant for the sake of doing consultation. I'm a consultant for the sake of getting new jobs. Now, my worry is, how do the small entrepreneurs survive? Now, all the big entrepreneurs will definitely survive because they have consultants like us who can reach out, whom they can reach out to, and we can give them advice. But the smaller people are the ones who worry me a lot, because they are the ones who are not going to come to consultants, who don't think that their consultancy is required. But these are the people who are going to get hit the most. So we are trying to put out as many ideas as possible on these forums so that they can go and reach the people who are actually looking forward to these things. Redoing menus, redoing concepts, redoing things are going to be the future. Each and every owner can sit now, talk to the managers, talk to the actual workers and get ideas as to what can be done. Do not feel shy. Dishwashers have given me better ideas than my MBA managers. Trust me, talk to your staff. They are going to come out with amazing ideas which will help you in redoing your business. Nothing is possible without a team. Get your team in place. Make sure your team is standing behind you. I have my team standing beside me. I am not their leader. I am part of them. That is why I am successful. Now, when you stand next to them, they are going to hold your hands and tell you what can be done and what cannot be done. Outsourcing, a lot of things can be happening in the future. When I talk about outsourcing, there are many things that need to be outsourced in the industry, in the thing, which can be done in a very collaborative way. Food safety and standards are going to be the norm. Each and every single entrepreneur, whether it is food business or whether it's a textile business or whether it's going to be anything else, is going to be very, very important. People are going to start looking at their safety first before they come to you. Now is the time when you fix a camera in your kitchen and put a screen in your restaurant to show them that your kitchen is clean. Now is the time when you show what can be done. Now is the time when you can probably broadcast your kitchen on a live basis to make sure that the cleanliness is high. When you do that, you are forced to make sure your kitchens are clean. You are forced to make sure that you train your staff. Now is the time when you spend time training your staff the requirements which have to be done. I'm not talking about big training programs. I'm not talking about big audit programs that need to be done. It's very simple things that can be done on an everyday basis. How many of us really talk to our staff on a daily basis? How many of us really sit and have a briefing which is talking about what they did wrong yesterday and what needs to be corrected today and what can be done for today? We are always talking about business. We are always talking about money. We are always talking about things. These are not important now. The things that are important now is safety, standards, and clean, good food. If that can be done, we will survive. And once we survive, we can rake in the profits at a later date. So don't worry about money. Money will come. Government is doing its best. Now is the time when you need to look forward to getting into association with the hotel associations. Hotel association people are working very hard trying to get apps in place for food delivery. Now is the time when you need to support this. Now is the time when you need to sit and go online, talk to the association, see what the associations can do. I know that all associations have a problem, but now is the time when we have to sit and say what can be done. Now is not the time for us to hold back information. I'm willing to give all my information to everybody. Are you interested in listening to it and implementing it? This is very important. Now people in the association are working very hard at trying to talk to the government to get a legislation in place for getting the salaries and other regulations down. They are talking to the ministries to get a law which could say rental could be reduced, because all of us have signed agreements which are legal. So it's if you're going to go talk to your landlord, he is going to say, I have an agreement which says X amount is your money, please give me. There are people who are considerate enough to say, okay, for the next 1 month, I don't need. But what happens after a month? Are you really going to do the projected business that you were doing before? No, you may not. So it has to be a legal component. So the legal component has to be done by the government. It cannot be done by you. Because if he contests in a court, you will lose. So please get and redo your agreements if required. Get it legally right. Don't take things on assumptions or anymore. You need to be legally correct. And when you're talking about products, a lot of new products are going to come in place. Probably products which are safer to eat are going to come in place. We are not going to have a huge range of things that can be had anymore. If the product is not going to be hot, I'm sure people are going to get a little worried. If there is a sweet and shops which are going to be open, they are going to look at more safety standards. They're going to look at how it can be safe. They're going to start asking questions to all the sweet and savory shops, whether the packing has been done right, whether the people are being done right. So now is the time when you start re-looking at how you can pack, with trying to say who are the people involved in that particular batch of packing, so that you'll know that they were infected or not infected. So you could decide how to retrieve your packaging and retrieve your product if there is a problem. Now, understand, Indian food is very safe. Indian food is very safe probably because we either steam them or fry them. So the probabilities of bacteria hitting that is zero, because our Indian food is not cold food. It's always very hot food. Of course, I'm not saying that cold food is not there. There is. But majorly, any of the products that we make are cooked very well. It's after the cooking that we have a problem. It's the post-cooking hygiene that needs to be looked into at a very great level from now on. Once the product is made, how are you going to make sure that the safety of that food till it reaches your customer is going to be the priority. Have less number of people touching your food. Your touch point of food should become less. This is an area which needs to be scrutinized by all owners in a very big way. Look at what you can deliver and what cannot be delivered. Things which cannot be delivered, please do not spend time on. Things that are giving you loss, try to reduce them. Things which are more profitable, try to showcase them in a better angle so that you can sell more. Show that you care. That is very important for this business now. Show that you care for your staff. Show that you care for your customers. Show that you care for yourself. Now, if you are not going to be in your business, if you are not going to be at a high spirit, you are not going to lead a team which is going to be high spirited. You first need to have faith that your business is going to do well. A positive mind will get a positive team. Be very clear on that. When we talk about, somebody had put a question saying, what about juices and other things? Yes, juices are safe if you know how to clean them and how to keep them. It is only when you start making juices and allowing it to be kept outside and when infestations take place that we have a problem. No food is bad. All food is good. But food preparation could lead to problems. Food handling and storage could lead to problems. Food handling is where the whole problem starts. Before we cook, we need to understand what are the standards required to keep them clean and make them safe. As you cook, you need to understand what can be done and how it should be done and at what temperatures it can be done. And the last thing is, after your food is cooked, you need to understand how it is being dished out, how it is being packed, or how it is going to be processed to reach the customer. This is very important. This is the factor which is actually going to cause contamination and cause problems. When we start talking about staff, please spend a lot of time with them because they are more scared than you and me. I am really worried about them. Talking about customer awareness, making customer aware that you have a process in place for sanitizing your food, very important. Have the customers understand what are the different processes that you're doing and what are the safety measures that you're doing. If you can put up pamphlets outside your restaurant, a small restaurant, a big restaurant, fine, do it. Make them understand that you are following the system. Make them understand that your staff are being temperature controlled. Make your staff understand that if they are not well, they should not come to work. Because if he comes to work, he is going to contaminate your place and there is a possibility that your unit will be shut down for a period of 2 or 3 months. So the very fact that even one person with an infection can cause your restaurant to shut down should be of greater concern than doing business. Because if he's going to come to work and he's going to cause a problem, and you do not have a system of temperature control or whatever norms that the government are going to do, then you are going to contaminate the whole place and your business is shut down for a longer period of time. So think about it. Think what needs to be done. Definitely, if possible, try to have a quarantine room for your raw materials coming in. Please have a place where you can leave your raw materials for a good period of 24 to 72 hours, which is recommended for this thing. COVID has got nothing to do with food. COVID has got everything to do with the virus, which cannot move unless you move it. And you move it from place to place. And you sanitize it by just allowing it to die naturally by not touching the products. If you get a product and you leave it without touching for 72 hours, COVID is dead. After that, whatever you touch, you don't have any problem. So understanding this is very important. Understanding first what COVID is the problem. A lot of us don't understand that it is the virus which we cannot see and can be spread because of people. It cannot be spread because of anything else. If we wash our hands regularly, we sanitize ourselves regularly, COVID is not going to come to us. And last but not least, think about making profit. That is what is very important. The more you think about different ways to make profit, I'm sure we will be into a profitable venture. Spending time on where your profit is going to come is very important than trying to get your business started. Getting your business started is important, but getting your business started and making profits is more important than that. So please spend time and understanding what you are capable of doing. Now, management systems are going to change. Each of you all need to have more accounting procedures in place. So please make sure that your records and accounts are in place. I know I'm running out of time. So if anything is required, we are here to help each and every one of you all. Please do not hesitate to call your people. We will definitely help you in whatever little way that we can do. We are here to support the industry, and the industry is there to support the staff and the customers who are looking forward to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That is very interesting insights from your side. I've got a few questions. Unfortunately, there were a lot, but we're taking in a few which the organizers have, noted and sent it to me on a message. So, although I can see the chat screen, but yeah, this makes it easier for me to put forward the questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Rahul.
Yeah. So the first question was, how do we fix cost on all expenses without understanding how much I generate?
Okay. This is a very simple process. Let me explain it very simply to you. Now, I'm assuming that you have a place which is already running or that you're going to open a new place. Now, Rahul had put up a sheet right at the beginning which said, what is your average per cover? When you say average per cover, what he means is, what is your expected money that one person will spend in your restaurant? It now depends on the location. It also depends on where you are situated, because that is the place where you're going to get your business. Every person who walks into your place is going to spend some money. How much do you expect him to spend? 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, depends on your place. Depends on the product that you're going to sell. Once you understand this, you know that you have so many seats, and like what Rahul said, put 50% as your occupancy levels and say that this is what is the revenue that can be generated. Once you can understand the revenue that you're generated, then you can understand how you're going to spend that money. Thank you.
The next question is, how will the scenario change in foreseeable future? How do you ensure profitably in dynamically changing scenario? This is by Mr. Dinesh Rajgopalan.
Bala.
Rajesh, can you unmute Shiv Bala?
Okay. Okay, I will.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Shiv Bala is here.
Okay, fine. Great.
Yeah. So basically, they're just trying to ask, how is the scenario going to affect the business in terms of profitability? That's what they're just trying to ask, right?
No, he's saying if there's going to be a change in the business pattern, how am I going to cope up with the business pattern?
Yes.
Like probably he's a restaurant owner. Now he's worried if it's going to change into only deliveries, how will I manage?
Yes, actually, every food business owner at this point of time, they need to do reverse engineering, like we have already discussed. Let us assume they already know some of their static overheads. Let us say the rental part of it, they might know it, and they might know the magnitude of the business they can cover and the productivity that they can cover from their kitchen or manufacturing unit. So they need to take that into consideration and keep on one side. On the other hand, they need to do a reverse engineering calculation. Like, let us assume this is the number of profit, this is the value of the profit or the percentage of the profit from the magnitude of business. Let us assume a person is looking for a 50,000 rupees profit per month in a restaurant, and he's having a rental of so much. There is a thumb rule that we should try to fit these things in. Profit, let us assume 50,000, let us convert that into a percentage as 10 percentage. So you should do a sales of about 100 percentage, that is more like let us say that is about 5 lakh rupees. So 5 lakh rupees is at least the break even or just a profitable business that he should expect to do. Break that down into the number of days he had for production. That is for 30 days. So break it down into 30 days. In 30 days, he should be able, or he should expect so much of business per day basis. And this per day basis should be converted into number of products that he could sell. Number of products. If, say, for example, per day he should do a business of about, let us assume 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, he should convert that into a smaller business values in terms of products. Let us say he should do or sell of about 500 breads per day, or he should sell somewhere about 1,000 samosas per day. He should break it down into smaller value from a bigger value. That is how they should proceed. And they should also take into consideration the sessions they are working on. As, like, say, for example, a restaurant, it might work only for lunch and dinner. So they should break that into a session basis. A lunch should do this much, a dinner should do this much. First, they need to forecast the sale possibilities. Then they should work on the menu, and then they should work on expanding their wing. Like, say, for example, if they are only targeting a walk-in crowd, they should now step into takeaways, home deliveries. If they are doing everything, try to step into business to business. Like I already said, if you are running a restaurant, you can also do some kind of a smaller magnitude of support to a smaller business that is already existing. A bakery, they are only taking care of their pastry shop. They can expand to giving products to different cafes and restaurants in the same city. They can create a B2B menu with a concise menu price. They can sell it to a different business owner. That is how they should try to expand. That is what I would say for them.
So there's a question on by thumb rule factor while doing our costing. What is the wastage percentage that you factor in general?
Rahul.
Me, sir, I would
Yes.
say about 3%.
Could be
It's
a
on the
little
higher
less.
side.
Yeah, could be a little less also.
Yes, sir.
But here I just like to add one point. See, wastage is a very big word. See, there are a lot of things which come into wastage. It starts right from the product itself. Like if you buy, let us say if you buy onions and the skin is removed and thrown, that is also wastage. So your yield will change. So you need to understand what is your wastage at every stage of your production. And the biggest wastage is when you make food and you don't sell it.
You don't sell
So
it.
understanding that is the most crucial thing. A lot of restaurant owners do not have records of their wastage. They do not have. Even in places where I do consultancy, I find it very difficult to make them record the wastage. And once you start recording your wastage, let us assume that you are a restaurant which does curd rice and sambar rice. I'm just saying only these two products. And let us say every day you're making 10 kgs, and at the end of the day, there is a chart pattern which says on Monday you're losing 5 kgs of curd rice every Monday. So you're automatically having a record which is going to say this is your wastage, and you can start producing half of that. Don't make it zero. So if you're instead of losing 5 kgs of curd rice on every Monday, make 2.5 kgs less. So you're going to only lose 2.5 kgs maybe. Understanding this is very important. A lot of people do not understand the value of record keeping. Unfortunately, This is where the problem starts. Wastage can be controlled at every level if we can understand what we are trying to do and if we have records. These are very simple records. You don't need to be a master. You don't need portion wise. Take your vessel, put the weight and say so much weight every day we are losing. Including your vessel weight is okay. And then you start saying that you have a pattern. You know, on Monday, every Monday you're losing so much, every Tuesday. So once the pattern is understood, you can reduce your wastage. Wastage plays a key role in profitability.
The next question is probably from both our alma maters, IHM Chennai. Can you discuss on how to improve profitable business over a takeaway food model? It is understood that due to the current situation, it's going to be a big challenge for a few months going forward.
Any business is profitable if you can understand the workings.
True, absolutely. I would second that.
So understanding workings is where the biggest challenge starts now. Now, when you say a takeaway, the first challenge will start in how much production should you do? How much can you sell? How much are you going to spend on transport? How much are you going to spend on packaging? So if you can understand all these components and break it down even further, if you can break it down to the micro level of components, then you are going to create a platform where you know what to sell and what not to sell. Definitely takeaway business is the future. Definitely cloud kitchens are the future. Definitely you're going to have smaller restaurant footprints in the future. Definitely you're going to have the bigger chains coming out with smaller QSRs. They are going to happen.
I'll just take two more questions and wrap up the session. One quick one would be how to go about pan-India supply chain in the cinema business area.
I'm not very familiar with this. I think you guys are, so you should do this.
Chef Bala, would you want to take this?
Cinema business, in the sense, I'm not very accurate on what they are trying to ask. I can put forth like this. Like say most of the food produced inside the cinema, it's selling based on their movies and the kind of number of shows they make and things like that. As on condition, the food business inside cinema theaters might be on a halt for a smaller period or a set period of time. But on the same way, I think the food courts inside the theaters can try to come out as a kiosk, because the theaters may be closed, but most of the cinemas and theaters, they have a bigger front yards and places like that. They can try to create some kind of a different takeaways and delivery patterns coming outside their doors to step in and create a kiosk module or something like that, and they can still produce their products inside their kitchens and try to sell it outside their things. That can only be done, but as on condition, there will be a solution that will be found in a short time, or we can expect some kind of a pattern of business that could be given to all these malls and theaters which are being closed due to public gatherings and things like that. I think we can expect, and we should be expecting something shortly.
This question was more related to a supply chain in the cinema area. I would like to add that brands operating cinema chains across the country actually have countrywide tie-ups. They are called key accounts, and they have long-term tie-ups which has service level agreements and which has price negotiations for a set period of time, and that's how you go about it. If I can throw a one liner on that from my side in terms of supply chain, you need to have a very good back end of your supply chain, right from your logistics to your cold storage and your day-to-day delivery aspects. When you have a restaurant with okay, this is a very interesting question. When you have a restaurant with many uneducated people who find it difficult to understand these structures, how do you implement these, and what would be the alternative?
I think I'll take this because
Sure.
this is what I've been doing all my life.
Absolutely, sir.
What I would like to say is training programs are unique. Training programs should be created understanding the people whom you're going to train. Because I work a lot with a lot of people in the southern region, right, like what you say, absolutely right. I always have had problems with uneducated people coming in. But I also would like to state over here that there are people whom I have trained who are probably 8th standard and now have become GMs. That guy can't speak English even today, but he is a GM of a very big hotel and very successful GM. Now it's very simple. Any training program should not be for one glove fits all kind of a theory. That doesn't work. Lot of trainers do not understand that what they are trying to train is for one particular sector. If a 5-star hotel trainer is going to go to a small restaurant, he is going to be lost. If a small hotel trainer is going to go to a 5-star hotel, he is not going to understand what is the requirement. So first of all, the train the trainer program is what I started 30 years back. Now, train the trainer is about you first teaching one person who is willing to learn what needs to be learned. And that one person start training a few others down the chain. Now, this kind of a training program, training the trainer and the trainer training somebody else, is going to be more successful in smaller entrepreneurs and also big organizations. Now, in a big organization, they have a training session, they have a HR, they have everything. But what happens to middle and small restaurants? You don't have that. So the very first thing is you need to make them understand that the training is being given so that their levels improve, so that they are going to grow up the ladder. It is not that you have to do this, that's why I'm training you. No, I am training you so that from a dishwasher, you come out into the restaurant and be a plate remover. And from that plate remover, you become a supervisor who can supervise 10 boys. So if you can make them understand that their organic growth will happen if they train, then you have a training program in place which is going to be very successful. We have been very successful at this. I have trained more than 10, 15,000 staff in this 30 years, and a lot of them are way up the chain now. I know people who are dishwashers who are now heading a few things. This is what is very important for you all. Start training people who are willing to learn first. Don't try to force it onto them. They're not going to learn if you force them. And also make sure that you're going to train them so that their career path grows. Not because you want a trained person working as a dishwasher for the rest of his life. Then you have a very good training program in place.
The next question is directed towards food safety. Although I can answer this, I would like Geeta ma'am to answer this. Is reheating of food acceptable before serving, or heat to order in case if dishes are made beforehand? Are there any restrictions on these?
No, it wasn't clear. Can you repeat it, Rahul? Sorry.
Ma'am, yes. The question is that is reheating of food acceptable before serving, or heat to order in case the dishes are made beforehand? Are there any restrictions to these?
Yeah, you can serve reheated food in the sense when the order comes in, you can pull out, reheat to 82 degrees for a minimum of 3 minutes, and then serve. Serve immediately. You can't reheat and keep it for some time. It has to be reheated and served immediately.
The last question, and I would like Mr. Muhammad Ali to take this because it is related to what he's been doing for quite some time. This is related to if I would like to do only manufacturing and supply of bakery products, how to proceed, especially in the times of this crisis. Can you also throw some light specifically about any loans that are available for this sector, required licensing, branding, etc.? So I think you're the most competent person here to answer this.
It's a good question. Now everyone is actually looking for money either to expand the business or to continue the business or any other format. So minus this current crisis which we are in, there are a lot of loans and schemes that is available for first-time entrepreneurs. A good place for you to start would be our MSME. They have something called a NEEDS program, NEEDS, NEEDS program. So for a first-time entrepreneur, I think the government is very, very proactive in terms of giving incentives in terms of giving a part of the investment itself. I think till a crore, I think the government is willing to give you 25 lakhs, if I'm not mistaken. I think you need to Google up needs program for the MSME that is very specific to setting up of restaurants or small manufacturing units towards the food service and food service business. So that being said, I know a lot of restaurants who actually have claimed it, small units who have actually have claimed it. Of course, it needs to be the workaround needs to be taken care of because we have a lot of IAS officers who are part of it. So that is one good place to do. And I think for you to start straight away, first and foremost, the $1 million question is you got to ask is how much are you going to invest into the business? Are you capable of doing it? Are you able to bring that kind of money to the table? And of course, subsequently, there are other ways other than other what do you call entrepreneurial routes that you can take, such as trying to bring in partners who can also invest along with you. So some people might work with just a sweat equity, where you bring the idea, the concept, and work behind it, and ask someone else to invest on it. But all that purely depends upon in terms of how you want to set up your organization. Is it going to be because some people they find it very difficult to work with other people, specifically when it involves a lot of finance and a business which has a lot of very very high variables and the mortality rate is very very high. So it depends on that. But other than that, if you're a first-time entrepreneur, the NEEDS program is a good place for you to start. Besides that, if you have a good friend, the bank, probably they can also help you in terms of getting a business loan. But at a time like this right now, even though they want to actually help the MSME sector and a lot of things that has been promised, to start something new would be quite a bit of a challenge. So as anyone would always recommend, to start something small and try to grow from there on would be very very vital, and try to take the organic road in terms of growing the business per se. I hope that answered a little bit of what was asked.
Yes, it definitely does. I think that was the last question that we're taking for today. Although there have been a plethora of questions that have come in the interest of time. I'm not able to take most of the questions, but the organizers have made note of your questions, and we will try our best to get back to you. Our contact details are on the screen for quite some time. I hope if anybody wants to contact or get in touch with any one of us, our numbers are right here. And I would pass it on to Brijesh to give the vote of thanks. A big thank you from our side to all the participants, as I'm speaking on behalf of all the consulting partners and Mishali and Ms. Venkat here. Thank you to all the participants to have taken time out. Over to Brijesh now. He can take a word and he can thank the sponsors.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for such an in-depth session today on profitability business. And I take this opportunity on behalf of Synergy today to thank every panelist who had contributed to this session. And I also thank the participants who are very, very patient for a very long session. I'm so sorry that the session which was being scheduled for an hour took us about 2.5 hours today. I think the session was a bit interesting, so that it needed to be prolonged. So I think such many more sessions like this are scheduled in the future in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Stay tuned with Synergy Exposures, and let's grow together. Thank you one and all. Yeah.
Thank you to all the sponsors for sponsoring the event.